This is part B of my progress path, and we're going to continue with communication. In communication, we are looking at several different factors. We're looking at non-offensive language. So if you've got a youth who is cursing a lot, they're going to get a 0. If they're sometimes cursing in and out, it's a 1. And if they're never cursing, it's a 2. If they have a tone and aren't using proper manners and communication, we're really talking about communication with anyone, with peers, with teachers, with staff, with volunteers, with people in the community, how they're interacting. So we're going to be looking at, are they having verbal conflicts? Are they able to communicate to build relationships? Are they able to effectively manage their conflicts verbally? And are they being honest and respectful with others? And are they using their appropriate social media and internet use? And one of the things about appropriate social media and internet use is we're not looking at when we tell them to put their phones away, are they putting them away? We're not, are they sneaking time on their phones? Are they refusing to give us their phones? That's not what this is. Because remember, our topic is communication. So what this is referring to is how they are communicating with their devices. So are we seeing a lot of cursing on this? Are we seeing any bullying? Are we seeing lack of manners? Are we seeing any inappropriate photos or videos? So we're really looking at how they're using it, not whether they're following the guidelines in when they use it. So let's say for this assessment we're doing that this kid curses occasionally but not always, so we're going to give them a 1. Let's say that their tone and manner is probably around the same as their offensive language, so we'll give them a 1. Something that we're still working on. Let's say that they're not really managing their conflicts very well. They are often provoking people, and they're definitely not apologetic. We're going to give them a 0 on that score assessment. Under honesty and respectful with others, certainly not managing and provoking and not being apologetic makes it difficult for them to be respectful with others, even though they may be honest. So we're finding that they're honest, brutally honest, and that, but they're lacking respect for others. So we'll give them a 0 or a 1, and I'm going to give them a 1 since we at least say that they're honest. The use of their social media online, we're seeing some curse words, but we're not seeing any other inappropriate use of the social media. So we're going to give them a 1 as well. So that's a 4 in total. So when we go into our card, we're going to give them a 4 on communication. All right, if we go back to housing and money management, get that up there. This one is going to be probably low for some and high for some, because certainly in order to earn and spend wisely, whether it's CCY orange tokens, gift cards, earning gift cards, or any kind of wages or stipend that they're getting from a job or an apprenticeship, they would have to be, if they're doing really well on this, they would be employed and have a job or a youth apprenticeship on campus. But this also applies to those kids that are younger. How are they using their orange tokens or the gift cards that they get, even around Christmas time, especially when they get more of that. So really being able to judge how they're doing that well. If they don't have any money to spend, then they're probably going to get a 2 out of a 0 to 3. But if they do have money and they're spending it wisely, they'll get a 2 or 3. And if they're not, they'll get a 0 or 1. So let's say in this case that this young man, occasionally helps Mr. Brown out and earns some gift cards, earns some orange tokens. So we're going to give him a 2 for his occasional, because when he does, and then he's earning and spending it wisely. He's not using drugs. He's not, just spending it to be frivolous. He hasn't opened a bank account, so that's a 0. So he's not saving money for an IDA account yet, so that's a 0. But he has not have any theft behaviors, so that's going to be a 3. So he's going to get a 5 for housing and money management, which a 5 out of 10 is like right in the middle, which is about where a kid would be that isn't able to work a job yet, but hasn't worked a job yet, but is spending what he has wisely. Career planning. In this one, we're really looking at participation in life skills workshops with Mr. Ron Stebbin. And participation means that they're, volunteering for the ones you can volunteer for, going to the ones that are mandatory. They're participating in the workshop, not just showing up and then sitting there and not having a positive attitude. They're also expressing a career goal. It doesn't matter what the career goal is. Are they expressing one? Do they have an interest? Is it something that's motivating them? So, whether they want to be an NFL star or they want to be a counselor or a teacher or a policeman, or whether they express wanting to be, a rapper. That's a career goal, and they have a career goal. The next question is, are they exploring any interests or talents? So the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says that there are 3 factors that contribute to kids being successful beyond shelter and foster care to those who are not successful beyond shelter and foster care. And so there are 3 factors. And those 3 factors are, 1, having an interest, hobby, or talent that motivates them. So an interest, hobby, or talent that motivates them. The second one is having one person, one connected person who is an appropriate and caring adult who gives them that connection that they need to keep them on the right track. And the third one is innovative therapies, that they are not just sitting and doing talk therapy, but they are doing innovative therapies. You have to forgive my handwriting here, but innovative therapies is the third one. So generic talk counseling alone is not enough for these kids. They need some music therapy, some animal therapy, they need some movement therapy, they need some horticulture therapy, they need other ways to express themselves and other ways to that will affect them and help them ultimately in their generic talk therapy and counseling. They need group therapy, etc. So that's why we're trying to offer those things on campus. Okay, so let's go back to career planning. So let's say that this kid is participating in 50% of the life skills workshops, and when he's there, at least he's not disruptive, he is participating, so we're going to split the difference of 4 and give him 50% and say he gets a 2. Let's say that he is expressing a career goal, that he wants to be a policeman or a fireman. So we're going to give him a 3 for expressing the goal, and he has joined the choir on campus. So he's joined the choir on campus, and we're trying to get him to join some activities at school, and he's exploring some. So we're going to give him a 2 for choir, and hopefully when he joins something else in the community or at school, he'll be able to move up that score. So let's give him 5, 6, 7 on career planning. So it's doing a little bit better on career planning. Work life. Okay, we talked before about the fact that he's been doing just some little odd jobs on campus with Mr. Brown. So let's say that that he does not have a current resume, so that's a 0, but that's something he can work in his life skills workshop to get. He does not have a work skills training program that he's in, but he does do some cooking classes on campus occasionally, and he's done a computer class. So we're going to give him a 2 out of 3 on that because he is working towards that. And he is doing his work with Mr. Brown. It's not a full-blown campus apprenticeship, so I'm not going to give him a 5, but he does do some work for Mr. Brown around the campus, so I'm going to give him a 3. So that's going to give us a score of 5 on work life. So as we can see, at least he's got some career planning to improve that work life, and he's at a mid-mark for work life. Health and wellness, a lot of our kids aren't doing as well in this as we really would think that they could do. But there are some things that are pretty standard, which is the doctor appointment that they have to attend when they come into us to get an assessment, and then they have to have an annual exam. and all that is the preventative medical, as well as the dental care. They have to have a dental every 6 months. So most of our kids are doing fairly well in this area, unless they're brand new and they haven't had an opportunity to get that yet. So we're going to give him a 2 because he's been with us a little bit while and we know that he's done those things. Medication management. Let's say that he is not on any medication, and so we would give him a 2 because there's nothing to manage. If he were cheeking his meds or refusing his meds, that would be a 0. If he was just refusing to sign for the meds, we might give him a 1 while we work with him on that. But at this point, this youth isn't on any medication, so he's going to get a 2. Now, so that's a 2 for doctor care and a 2 for medication management. Therapy and group. Let's say that he's in Mr. Lewis's group, he's participating in therapy. The therapist says, sometimes he's not as participatory as other times or as what I would like from him, but he is in group, so we're going to give him a 2 for the group and for times that he does participate. But that's something we want to leave room to work on. So that's another thing about this tool. If you're giving them the highest point, you're basically saying they don't need to work on it anymore. Most of our kids need to work on some areas, but some areas they actually have achieved, like the doctor, dental, and medical care. If he's not smoking and there's no concerns or issues with substance abuse, with drugs or alcohol, then we would give him a 3. In this case, we have no indications of that from this young man, so we'll give him a 3. So that's 2, 4, 6, and 9. So he gets a 9 on health and wellness. So this is an area where he's doing well, and a lot of the reason he's doing well is because we're making sure that he's getting the therapy he needs, the doctor and dental care, and he's not on any medication. Leadership. This is a difficult one to score because we're asking, are they what is their maturity level that they're demonstrating, and we're given a 1, 2, or 3. It gets a little harder when you get the scale bigger than that. So 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 scale is going to be a little bit easier to sort of judge their maturity. So what I always say is, in the area of maturity, is there room for improvement? Is there room for a lot of improvement? Is there room for no improvement? And that's how I would score it. Certainly, most of our youth here do have room for improvement. We have a few who actually demonstrate good maturity. So I'm definitely going to start him at a 2, and then I'm going to say, I think that because of some of his communication skills that we talked about up here, his use of offensive language, even when we redirect him, some of his conflicts and his lack of ability to apologize, that's going to definitely reduce his assessment scale number for demonstrating maturity. So I'm going to say his maturity is at a 1 at this point. That is definitely an area he needs to work on, that we need to work with him on. Is he helpful to others? This youth really is helpful to Mr. Brown in that he does that work and earns his orange coins and gift cards. He is helpful to his peers, maybe not as helpful to the staff. So we're going to give him we're going to give him a 1 on that as well. Is he a positive role model? Definitely not with the language we talked about and the tone and the provoking and the lack of apology. So we're going to give him a 0 for role model. Under responsibility and takes initiative, we're going to say he does take initiative in the things that he does with Mr. Brown. We're going to say that he did join the choir on his own. So there are some things that he's taking initiative with and things he's being responsible for. So out of a 0 to 2, we're going to give him a 1. So he scored a 3 in the area of leadership. And leadership, we all know, is something that comes last. All of these things have to come before leadership. So a score of 3 is on par. Collaborative problem solving. Is he willing to plan and solve problems with staff or not willing to engage in the process? This youth is definitely struggling with engaging in the process because he's got a frustration tolerance that's very low, and he's not communicating well. So we're going to give, but he is, when he settles down, he does then want to at least have a conversation with us. So we're going to give him a 1 on willingness to solve problems. Assumes responsibility for own actions. Definitely not doing that because that was even shown in his lack of ability to apologize. But when he does come around and he's willing to talk, so we're going to give him a 1 on that. At least give him a little bit of credit for that. Understands and accepts the consequences. He does. This is a kid who really, will argue with us and does get angry, but eventually does accept the consequences. So we're going to give him a 1 on that. So that's a 3 in collaborative problem solving. And it's difficult to collaborative problem solving when you lack leadership and initiative skills. The last one is just overall conduct. How many incidents have we recorded involving negative behaviors with him? Is he following the program safety rules and the expectations? Positive attitude. Is he monitoring his own behavior for self-discipline? Is he taking direction and redirection well? Well, under no incidents involving negative behaviors, he definitely has a few verbal altercations and some conflicts where he's gotten into it with a couple of other residents and some staff. So I think we're going to give him a 0 for that because he has a few of those. Is he following the program safety rules and expectations? Definitely not if he's, cursing and if he's not managing his conflicts well, if he's not always participating in therapy or not attending all of the, workshops all the time. So for follows program safety rules and expectations, he may be following the safety rules because he's not, doing drugs or anything unsafe except for a few altercations, but he's not following all of the expectations. But we're going to give him a 1 for the things that he is doing under safety rules of not engaging in drugs and alcohol, not, being out after curfew, those types of things. Does he have a positive attitude? Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. So we'll split the difference on that and say a 1. Does he monitor his own behavior and self-discipline? Well, this is interesting. At first glance, it appears that he does not. But he always comes back around, and at least he may not apologize, but at least he's ready to engage when he comes back around. So we're going to split the difference on that and give him a 1. Does he take direction and redirection well? We may not feel that when we're giving it to him and he's refusing it, he's taking it well. But the part about coming back around and actually then engaging, that does mean that he is accepting it, just not when we want him to readily and right away. So we're going to give him a 1. So that's a 4 on conduct. Okay, so we now have our full card scored, and we have to add that up for a total number. And I have to do that on this video and show you my math skills in front of you, which is not really what I want to do. So I'm going to grab my little calculator right now so I can do that. And I'm going to add these numbers up for you. So that's an 8 plus 2 plus 7 plus 4 plus 6 is 10 plus 5 plus 7 is 12 plus 5 plus 9 is 14 plus 3, 6 plus 4. That's a total of 63. We divide that by 13 because there's 13 totals here. And we have a 4.846, which is a 5. We round it up to a 5. So his total score is 5. So just to go back over that, we add all of these up, and then we divide the total, put that on the screen, we divide the total by 13, and then the number that we get, we round up or round down. So 4.846 is a 5. So we get a score of a 5. So what we're going to be looking for is how, as we move along through the months on the card, we're going to be looking for his improvements. We're going to be looking for where he's falling short as well. The other thing we're going to be looking for is if there was a significant event or something specific that happened that caused his score, his assessment score in a certain month to drop. And the way that I do that is I will put a circle around it. So I'm going to show you a card that's been completed, and I will show you how some significant events have been noted. And I've done some assessment markings on this card as well. So let's take a look at a card and see if we can do some assessments of the card and see how this information helps us. So this is resident James Jones. He lives in LifeWorks. This is the reporting month of July. So this is the very last month. So we're going to have an entirely full card here of total scores. And his current and total score at the end of this was 3. So it was 7, but he started with a 4. Total of 4 is right here. And his ending score was a 7. So I note over here under current progress that he improved by 3 on the total. And then what I do is I take all of these cards together. What we get is we get data, individual data, which right here we have an increase of 3 improvement score. And then I will also get aggregate data on how youth are improving across the board on each of the 13 skills. So let's look at some of the things that we see that stand out. So I circled some things that stood out when I was going through and actually scoring it. So here we have a 5. He had a 6 and a 6 for self-care, and then it drops to a 5, and there's a circle on it, which means there was some event or something that occurred that caused him to, that caused James Jones to reduce his score. And, you know, in this case, it was because he actually started having some sleep habit issues. And then he was able to speak with the doctor, get some medication, and it went back up again in November to a better score. The next one under self-care was in March. He had, it went up to an 8. And so, you know, the question was, what in the self-care caused it to go up to an 8? And I wrote next to it, sleep. This is where he was able to get off his medication and still maintain his good sleeping habits in the evening. So there was a definite increase in his self-care in March that carried out through the end of the year. So from self-care, from 6 to 8, he had a +2. So let's look at another one. So if I look here at daily living, he had 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and then he hits this big 8, which is a big marker over 4 at the beginning. And he hits this 8 because he gets a mentor. Maybe he got a mentor at the end of February, and it really has helped him in March with some of his community connections and his extracurricular activities. We can look at social relationships, and we can see some plummeting factors here. In September, it plummeted because he was having some really bad visits with his family and some bad interactions with teachers at school. But then he had an improvement in April, and some significant improvement in April with his social relationships was that he joined a sports team at school, which really caused him to have better interactions with folks at school, which carried over into his home life at the center. So he had a +4 from the time he started at 3 assessment to a 7. So he improved in social relationships. So we can continue to look at, you know, some of these. For instance, under communication, we had 4s, improvement to 5, and then we had a plummet to a 2 because some inappropriate photos were found on their telephone. But that was rectified. They took the redirection, and the scores went back up, and overall had a +2 in communication. Another one would be the work life, affecting the work life. It also seemed to be, the great thing about looking at these trends is we're able to see how one action, getting a job, can impact the money management increase, score, the work life increased score, but look what it also improves. It improves the conduct score. So to be able to say, boy, he was a 3 and a 4 and all of a sudden he was a 6, it's because of this job that he got, okay? And then he lost his job over here, and we can see how that impacted his conduct down to a 3 and impacted his housing and money management was up because he had saved money, but he was also started looking for a job, and he got another job 2 months later. So it's going to impact a lot of different things. So overall, when we look at the overall scores, some things that stick out, I always do go over here at the end of the card and do these pluses to see where the areas are that they really did well. So the areas they did well would be anything. Sometimes if they only have +1s, +2s, and +3s, then the positive area is going to be the +3s. But here, he had a +5 in daily living, a +4 in social relationships, a +4 in housing and money management, a +8 in work life, and a +5 in conduct. So these were his top areas in which he's succeeding. So we want to make sure that we're looking and reviewing with him, especially in staffings, and in our one-on-ones, look at how well you're doing in these areas. So let's keep doing what you're doing, and let's look at where you had some challenges in these areas so we can try to prevent those from happening again. Maybe next time, instead of, quitting your job or losing your job, you have another job before you do that. So really working through some of those issues. The other thing that we're looking at is, okay, where did he have the least amount of improvement, and did he need to improve in those areas? So certainly self-care, we only had a +2, but he went to an 8. So we're really okay in self-care on that. Home life, he had a +3, and he went from a 4 to a 7. That's really good improvement. And, we're at a 7. Education, we only improved 2. We went from a 4 to a 6. So that might be an area we need to really look at. Communication, definitely a 4 to a 6 we need to look at. Career planning went from a 4 to a 7, and he did well in his work life. So maybe we won't hit that one. Maybe now we're just really trying to look at hitting, education is an area to focus, communication is an area to focus. Let's continue on down. Health and wellness, he only had a +2, but it went from a 6 to an 8, so that's succeeding. Leadership went to a 4 to a 6. That's an area we can work on. Problem solving, stayed a 5. He made no progress in problem solving, collaborative problem solving. So that's definitely an area. If we're not making any progress, and in fact, we had a few fallbacks, this is definitely an area that we need to work on. And conduct went from a 3 to an 8, which is a great improvement. So we know moving forward with the individual service plan now, for the next steps, we're going to make sure that we've got education based on which area. Is it attendance and tardiness, truancy, grades, tutoring or homework that he needs to work on? We'll identify that. Communication, is it language, tone, manner, proper use of social media? What is it in communication we're working on? We'll put these into the individual service plan. We'll also look at leadership, and we definitely have to have the communication and the problem solving first before we can do the leadership. So keep that on the radar. And then look at the problem solving. Is it his willingness to resolve conflict, that he's struggling with? What are his problem solving struggles? So I would say on the ISP, we really need to focus on education, communication, and collaborative problem solving moving forward. And that will help us to drive to that. So this is the Progress Path tool for the Center for Children and Young Adults. And it's a great tool to use because it's very visual and very comprehensive. Kids are used to report cards in school, and this gives them that ability to see something that they're familiar with in a format they're familiar with that they can relate to. So we want the kids involved in the Progress Path skills. Perhaps another way to do it that some organizations utilize the card is they will take the card, and instead of making just an 8, which is their score, they will do a slant down the middle. And this will be the score that the staff gives. And then below we'll ask the kid what they think their score is. And it's even possible that some kids might have to have the staff score there before they can adequately score themselves. But some kids, it may be better to get their score first before we give them our score. And sharing how we're scoring is really important as well. Getting our youth to take this chart and really start to understand what the life skills and youth development and growing expectations are. A lot of times kids don't know, what is it that you want from me? What is the expectation? Well, this chart right here lays out very clearly for them what the expectations are for them as they develop into young adults and older adults. And so we want to make sure that we are not just scoring this and putting it in a folder. This is something we need to do with them. This is something that they need to have access to. Maybe we need to take this and put it up larger, on paper and give every single one of them to post in their room, so they know what they're working towards, so they can score themselves, so they can start to work towards these goals that will ultimately help them to achieve their individual service plans. I hope if you have any questions that you'll email me at kborna@ccyakids.org. Feel free to do that. Make sure that you complete the form from Steve Yarish so that you get credit for this training. And I look forward to providing some additional video trainings for you. Thank you.